Walton County Sheriff Mike Adkinson, along with our Trustee Public Information Officer, Ms. Corey DeBridnia, and Deputy Extraordinaire, Tony Bianco, and this is the Sheriff Live. So for those of you that don't know, I'm a little tongue-tied today. The Sheriff Live is kind of like my stakeholders meeting. We do this twice a month for me to report to the citizens of Walton County. But wherever you are, we'll try and answer your questions. I don't guarantee that I'll know the answer. I guarantee we'll try and get you one. So let's talk about Walton County for a second. Walton County, Florida, not confused with Walton County, Georgia, runs from the Alabama line to the coast, and we are halfway between Pensacola and Tallahassee. And so the Sheriff's Office unique operation here, we encompass a bunch of different things, everything from fire rescue north of the bay to animal control to the Walton County Jail to law enforcement operations to 911 and pretty much anything in between and air medical. So a lot of stuff going on. It is a busy time of year for us. But the most important thing is it's back to school time. So Walton County schools, Tony, we start back the 12th.
That's right. All the public schools open on the 12th.
So next Monday, is that Monday or Tuesday?
Monday.
Next Monday, we'll be back in school. And so what's the word for the day? It's safety. Slow down. Slow down. We want to make sure as these kids are out on their schools, at their new bus stops, and I know it's been a little while, we don't have anybody passing these buses. We want people to be careful and aware that, listen, we've got a new school opening in Freeport, so there's going to be some traffic pattern issues there at Hammock Bay. So you're going to have to be a little extra patient at every school, but in Freeport, particularly in Hammock Bay, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Had a great meeting with Superintendent Hughes folks the other day on his Epic Day, where he brings in all his staff, and that was great to see so many people from the school districts, teachers, administrators, folks that are working there getting ready for these kids, and great excitement with those folks. But we want to be patient. We want to be patient. We got a lot of excited kids, and particularly those little kids. And just make sure you take your time, a little extra grace in the way we do things, and remember it's going to take a minute. Yeah. We did, put the phone, Tony gave me the signal, and he's absolutely right. Put the phone down. There's nothing on that phone that's worth accidentally hurting yourself or somebody else. And we just did a back-to-school bash. Probably a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now at this point.
It was 2 weeks ago.
700 backpacks were handed out by our folks, and that's phenomenal. By about noon, it started raining in the middle of before the end of the afternoon. And
we started a little bit early because the rain was coming in.
Yeah.
But
good stuff.
Man, I would be remiss if I didn't mention everybody, but Liberty Volunteer came out and cooked hot dogs, and we had Walton EM there, we had Eglin there, we had Fire Rescue there, the Health Department, Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers,
Space Force.
The Space Force,
How awesome is that?
So a lot of, and we just want to thank the city of Defuniak Springs for letting us use We Care Park, and it was just like a great event, and there were so many happy people there. And the SRDs made that all possible.
Yeah, it's a great event.
They have a committee of 6 people, Tony?
Yes, ma'am.
And you guys really made that entire thing possible. So kudos to the SRDs.
Yeah, just even putting it together and doing all that you guys do with that, everybody that's involved with it, it's a lot, but it matters to these kids. And I know a lot of local churches were also doing backpacks as well too. I think Destiny did 2,000. I know several of the other churches were being involved in that. Everything from giving somebody a haircut to start the school year with to their supplies and all that's pretty cool stuff. So we're glad to be a part of it and in whatever capacity. So, but again, slow down, put your phone down. Be careful. It's important, and do not pass those school buses when they're trying to stop, please.
Yeah, that's the big one, and we do Operation Bluebird every year, and that one is really important to parents, and they're glad that we're out there and we're at every school zone where we have unmarked vehicles following buses and things like that.
Sure.
So just make sure you're minding your P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Come Monday morning.
And if I didn't mention it earlier, obviously we'll answer any questions you guys have. Fire them up again. Like I said, I don't guarantee I know the answer. I guarantee we'll try and get you one.
Yeah. Eddie Johnson has a question. Hi, Eddie. Who should I contact about cars and boats always parked on the street, which sometimes block traffic altogether?
Yeah, go ahead and call the sheriff's office. Let us just come out there and see if they're on the road apron. That's a traffic hazard, so we can address that with a uniform traffic citation. If they're on the roadway, go ahead and just call us and we'll take care of that. Right. Code enforcement, Walton County Code Enforcement also does that as well too, but we'll be happy to help you there.
Chaz Galloway has a question in honor of hurricane season. I'm asking this question. A recent poll, Walton County residents showed 87% believe Sheriff Adkinson would win a wrestling match against a hurricane, even if it were named Hurricane Adkinson.
Yeah, right.
Comment?
Yeah, listen.
We actually sent some folks from Fire Rescue down.
We did, and so
to help with the hurricane.
Yeah, we pre-staged some of our fire folks. We're over in Mariana with our regional asset, which is a whatever is necessary to assist, and you don't know exactly what's going to be there. Yeah. And I think Chief Voss and I were talking about this the other day, and then Chief Beatty. There were like 250 ambulances pre-positioned.
Yeah.
From our surrounding states to be ready. And we got lucky. We didn't need them, which is great. Yeah. But better to go through the exercise of being prepared. And, that's one of the things that Walton County does. We always participate in those as well, too. So that way, God forbid, we need assistance, that people are there coming for us as well, too. So
yeah, but hurricane season is upon us, so.
Yeah, and, I think the takeaway for hurricane season every year is really two things. One, be prepared. Two, pay attention to the evacuation orders. When they give evacuation orders, I know what happens a lot of times. These things, people say, well, I evacuated and it didn't hit or it turned, it goes somewhere else. But we just don't want it to get too late and you be stuck over here. So, I know it can be frustrating, but it is the right thing to do. So.
Yeah. And Katie and Jeff over at Walton County Emergency Management would tell me to tell you to sign up for Alert Walton and always have a go kit ready. Know
Absolutely.
What your family's plan is, your evacuation plan, and follow them for all things weather related and EM related.
Yeah, and for all of us south of the bay, if you're south of the bay, there's really not a good approved shelter, right? Because of floodplains and some of those stuff. I mean, we've used the school district's always been great, and sometimes we've used South Walton High School for, but that is really not an appropriate hurricane shelter just because of flooding and the other stuff. So we need to get you across that bridge before we have to close them.
Yeah. Deborah Lee McCormick says hello.
Hello.
Shannon Caps. Speaking of school, do you teach classes at FSU? If so, what kind of classes are they? Virtual? Are you ready for the fall semester?
So I don't teach every semester. I try to do that when I can. I think I think it makes me a little bit better sheriff, quite frankly, because I get an opportunity to see, how other people view things, what is interesting to them, what resonates, what doesn't. Obviously I don't have time to teach full time or anything like that, but I try to spend 2 hours a week, maybe every few months. I might do it once or twice a year, depending on the year, but it is, I think, a value add. I think it's one of those things where it's a pain to drive at night when I do that, but it's worth it. I mean, it clears my mind a little bit. So, yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of people will tell you what they think the kids think about stuff. And I say kids, these are all in their early 20s. Very interesting because they don't, I think what my perception of what they thought was acceptable or not acceptable or what they want out of their policing, it's kind of changed my mind. So I'm always kind of like when I can do that. I don't always get a chance to do it, but some years. But when I do, I like to try and do it.
And they're like, all of them are taking some sort of criminal justice class.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Right? Yes, all of them are always typically about to graduate. So I always try and use as a little bit of recruiting tool too. So we've got a couple of folks out of there over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. And some great FSU graduates. Go Knowles.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next question. Scott Kennedy says, yay for Splash Bash. Kay Lynn, hello. Bike etiquette on Timpucci Trail. Anything being discussed about signs along the trail? Announcing coming up on pedestrians, speed limit signs. It seems like it's more crowded than in years past.
Yeah, that's actually, it's an interesting thing you're bringing up. And I'm just brutally honest, I have not dealt with that much. I really haven't even given a whole lot of thought. That doesn't mean it's not important. I don't even know, if I'm being honest, I don't know who handles the signage on the trail for that. I'm assuming it's the county, but I'll tell you what I will do. We'll find out. We'll ask County Public Works because that may be administered by the state of Florida. I just don't know the answer to that. But we'll get to that's a good question. You certainly will want to know before you come up to a crossing and what is good etiquette on a bike path.
Yeah. Arrows, maybe like two-way traffic arrows, for sure. Walk on the right.
Well, you just don't want to cross. Yeah, and you don't want to cross to her point where there's traffic.
Yeah, for sure. Mary White, can we get more law enforcement at Morrison Springs and Morrison Springs Road?
Yes, we actually.
You have advocated for years about having a deputy do like a full-time.
Yeah, we several times over the years we've had people working at the Springs on the weekend, particularly depending on the crowd.
Yeah.
And then trying to increase the use of cameras there. We are for those of you that don't know, we're in the process of putting cameras in the county parks. We kind of partnered with the BCC and said, look, we know this is important, whether it's Grady Brown Park or Helen McCall or a park in Paxton or Morrison Springs. That actually is kind of a multiplier for us, so we can look at the crowd. And Morrison Springs is a great example. When we had people down there pretty regularly, we did a better job of controlling the crowd. So the short answer to that is yes. And I'd also like to try and do more with the camera down there.
Yeah.
Because we were actually just down there like a week or so ago dealing with some parking issues as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the boat launch.
And it's not a well-kept secret anymore.
No, not at all. Yeah. We actually got a lot of complaints, believe it or not, about the boat parking, the trucks and the people parking where your boaters are coming in. It's taking up the spots where it's so popular there that it's taking up a spot that's supposed to be reserved for boats and trailers. So.
Yeah. Great question, Mary. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Lisa wants to know, what if you don't have a vehicle for evacuation?
So call us. If we'll do what we can to get you out of there. We're not going to leave you just because you don't have a vehicle. If there's some way we can help you, we're going to do that.
Yeah, and
we'll arrange something. We'll get you a ride, or we'll take you ourselves.
Yeah, and that was one of the assets that we had deployed was our mass
bus.
Evacuation bus. Yeah. I mean, it's really used mostly to help nursing homes and all of that.
And we've done that. We did that with Delta Healthcare here in the past. We've done it for a couple different.
Yeah. Angie Hugoboom said, "Don't forget to plan for your animals."
Right. Truthfully.
Laura Lee Sparks, is there a reason we aren't participating in National Night Out? It's an annual community building campaign that promotes police-community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make neighborhoods safer, better places to live. Surprised this isn't something we participate in.
No, that's actually, honestly, it's a good idea. We should be participating in it more and trying to be more engaged in that. We always should try a variety of things, and I would be lying to you if I told you that I had that even on my radar right now. I don't, or I didn't, but now that you put it on there, I think it's absolutely worth looking at.
Yeah, and I think
we'll follow up. That's in September.
I'm not sure. In the past, I've seen a lot of police departments do National Night Out. It's like a police department thing. But that doesn't mean the sheriff's offices can't participate.
We can certainly do that.
I do know that Panama City Police does one, and I think that every agency kind of has like their event where they like are engaging in that way. And Splash Bash was.
Oh, it's tonight. It's actually tonight. So we are remiss. We missed for tonight, but that's actually a good thing for something to shoot for next year. So what I'll do, Ms. Sparks, is I will talk to Lieutenant Mark Wendell, who handles our outreach our community engagement services for us, and we'll talk about what that would look like to get that going for next year. So.
Yeah. And the community has always been really good about inviting us when they do things. I know Silver Sands Outlet Mall is about to do like a Community Heroes event where we go out with our SWAT team and our dive unit and the helicopter and kind of showcase some stuff. So the community really does a lot of really cool and engaging things like that too.
For sure.
Steve Sunday says hello. He's watching. Nolan Weeks, Walton County Sheriff's Office leads the way and sets the standard in so many different areas. Keep doing great things. You and your team have brought Walton County a very long way over the years. Kevin Dixon.
That's a great compliment. You know what I'd like better? If I could hire Nolan Weeks. Oh. That's what I thought. Extremely competent, extremely professional, and Nolan does a great job over at the Okaloosa County Jail, and as a former, Okaloosa County deputy as well too. So
appreciate you, Nolan. Kevin Dixon. With the opening of the new Freeport Middle School, I believe every crossroad with 20 will become a mess of traffic, especially in front of Freeport City Hall. Will Walton County Sheriff's Office be committed to keep traffic moving on 20 for the long haul, not just for the first week of school?
So listen, it is going to be I'm not going to mislead you. It's going to be a problem there. We're trying to figure out how to, certainly we're going to start working immediately till we get the traffic patterns under control. Because keep in mind that school is still under construction too, so we've got that going on. Tony, do we know when that's supposed to be done?
The school's supposed to open with the rest of the public schools on time.
No, I know it's going to open, but do we know when the construction's not 100% done yet? Is it? So there's still some things I know, punch lists, some stuff they're trying to finish up, but what we're going to try and do is, Mr. Dixon, is figure out what the traffic pattern's actually going to look at and see if we can make it work without making too many adjustments. And so certainly for right now, we're going to have to figure out where people are actually going to come out on 20, which exit they're going to use, and just try and control those traffic patterns. If we see they're going to continue to be a problem, we may have to look at putting a posse member down there, and we've actually looked at hiring school crossing guards, which I actually think there's some opportunity to do that. Maybe somebody who lives in Hammock Bay, lives around the area, that's retired or looking for a little secondary employment. So we may ultimately do something like that as well too. I just need to see what it's going to look like first. But I am concerned about it, 'cause Highway 20 is a terrible traffic situation to start with.
Yeah, and it's really congested as a whole. Laura Lee Sparks is asking, with the school starting Monday, is there not already a plan for that?
There is, but we haven't seen how it's going to work, right? So every plan, once you put it into action, generally needs to be altered and changed. So we already have ideas. This is where the deputies are going to go. This is how we're going to control traffic. But when you're dealing with people in cars, everybody has a mind of their own, and people may try and go in a different way. So we just need to see how it's going to work first.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work well, we need to change it, not be so married to it that we.
Yeah, Lieutenant Bart Smith just sent me a text, and he said the ops plan has a deputy at 83A East and 20 to assist with traffic.
Correct. So that's two deputies there, but keep in mind there's also going to be one at the school itself trying to assist people getting out of there. So if you think of it that way, it's going to take 3 just to get people out of that school right now until we figure out how the patterns are going to work.
Yeah, and that's not including the elementary school, which is on 331 business.
Absolutely.
So a lot going on in that
The elementary school has a beautiful left turn lane now going in and out. East and west, or north and south. It's got two lanes.
Yeah, that's going to be a big help. Talking about Freeport Elementary has this 2 new turning lanes, which is going to be great.
Yeah. Wanted to talk about, we're talking about good things going on around the sheriff's office, and I wanted to sort of switch gears for a minute, because we had a great speaker come to the jail, and Brittany Claney.
Yeah.
And she's a recent graduate of Path of Grace.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that post, I know we're kind of switching gears here from school to jail, but you talking about Nolan kind of got me thinking about our jail.
Yeah, sure.
And she came in to speak to the female inmates on her journey, her path.
Yes, we love it.
Yeah. And that impact. What do you see in the future? I know we're doing RSAT right now, and we've got our programs, but what do you see in the future?
RSAT is Residential Substance Abuse and Treatment.
Yeah.
So that's what that program is in the jail. So we've had a great partnership with Path of Grace, Eddie Mansfield, and those folks here in South Walton, and they're doing tremendous work, and so there's this transition from being in jail and substance abuse treatment, and then, places like Path of Grace. And I think when you see Ms. Clancy coming back and speaking to people at the jail, you get a chance to say, hey, it's not hopeless. There is a chance. And if you fall down multiple times, it doesn't mean we can't try and help you get back up and get moving. I think there's not a perfect answer, right? Perfect can't be the enemy of better. And so from my standpoint is, okay, we're going to do the residential substance abuse treatment. We're going to do some faith-based programs. We're going to do some job training. I don't know what is they're all good, right? They're all good. They all have their merit. We're in year 2 of our longitudinal study at FSU. We got a little bit of a brief out from those folks the other day. And the one thing I can tell you that just from a starting process is for people like Brittany Clancy, right? To come back and be able to demonstrate that there is a path forward. I can say that all day long, right? You can say that all day long, but to see somebody who's actually been able to change and do that, we need to try and support that as much as we can, and we need to try and I'd love to see Path of Grace and Haven House get more beds.
Yeah.
We looked at a couple of years ago about trying to do some not halfway houses, but for individualized treatment cottages. I simply just couldn't afford to do it at the time, and quite frankly, housing's expensive for everybody right now. But this was a success. I want to treat it as a success and say there are opportunities in the future to continue to get better.
Yeah. And Brittany was so inspiring and talked about how, her sobriety is a choice that she has to make every single day. And that's a tough choice.
It is. But, and to walk back in that jail after you've been in the jail, that's a big thing. So I've got a tremendous amount of respect for her doing that. And
there were so many hugs. There were so many. Yeah, and Brittany just talked about the people at the jail and how they want to help.
Yeah.
And that they're not against the people that are there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just, I think she inspired a lot of really.
And sometimes that's how it starts.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how it starts.
Just inspiring people. Yeah. Okay. Getting back to some questions. Okay. Shirley Bowling, regarding speeding on all Walton County roads, would it be illegal to use cameras on some of these roads where the drivers speed on a regular basis? I know you've said in the past you're not a fan of cameras.
Cameras have a couple of problems, right? So one, you can't use them as a funding source, right? So you can't use them to just issue. Second of all, you have to be able to make the driver match the vehicle. So for instance, a lot of times what happens is we know the car. The question is, was the owner of the registered driver? That's where the problem runs into, is identifying who the driver is. Yeah. So it does make it difficult. We've had some good luck with using, obviously, cameras for crimes, but for speeding it just hadn't worked out. And the public is pretty much against that. I mean, every time we talk about that, there seems to be no interest from the public.
Yeah. The
billboards and things like the dummy cars and different things like that actually can kind of magnify our effect. And remember, with traffic, it's about voluntary compliance. So, but go back to Ms. Boland for just a second. If you have a specific road, a specific area, we've got different traffic units throughout the county now. Now, it's each deputy's job to handle that individually, but at the same time, we can do some selective enforcement, if you will. If you'll give us a little bit of notice, shoot Corey an email, let us know somewhere specific, and also the time, because time does make a difference on that.
Yeah, like what time you're saying.
Yeah, what time of the day and where there's issues. Yeah.
All right, Natalia, Adams. Hello, my neighbor grows and sells cannabis for 4 years on our street. Nothing can stop her. She smokes any kind of drugs year-round. She wants easy money. During the summer, she grows in her backyard, and it smells bad. We have kids on the street in Santa Rosa Beach. The sheriffs can't stop her. During spring break, she sold too. The drive, she continues to increase her ring to keep her business. We really need help with her.
Email, when we get off here, email privately, not in the public disclosure, the address and all the information you have with the number so I can reach you.
Okay. And Natalia, our email is pinned to the top of this post. It's pio@waltonso.org. Gavin Hoffman, are you guys hiring, and do you take corrections officers transfers?
Yes, and yes. Yes to both. We are hiring, and we do take correctional reciprocity for correctional officers. And then we're doing sponsorships, really in all modalities right now, whether that's in deputies, detention deputies, or fire rescue, And so, we're absolutely always looking for the best and brightest.
So going back to the previous question from Natalia, my one of our sergeants is encouraging me to talk about online reporting. And online reporting is something that we've launched recently at the sheriff's office, where you don't have to have a deputy come out anymore. You can report an incident online. Yeah. There's specific incidents.
Yeah, not everything, but certain things you can
certain category. But our online reporting system does take narcotic and traffic tips online.
Absolutely.
So if you have a certain complaint or you want to report something, you can go to our online reporting, and it's on our website at waltonso.org, and you can fill out a report for that. So Sergeant Fannin said, don't forget to push online reporting. Yeah. So, all right. Laura Lee Sparks, is there a report on the stats of success of the programs from FSU? I've yet to see those. So talking about the FSU study.
So we met with Dr. George Pesta, Dr. Julie Brancai, and Dr. Jennifer Kapp probably 3 weeks ago. And a couple of things that, and I'm coming around to answer your question, but a couple of things that jumped out immediately was to reestablish the GED a little more, get more engagement in our GED. And we're trying to figure out how to measure things like getting a driver's license and getting your GED as effectiveness. How does that affect you not coming back, even if you don't get job training, right? What impact do those things have?
Yeah, because we do the ID cards and the driver's license. We have flow buses come.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Ms. Skipper this morning about driver's license and what we can do at the jail to be a little more effective. But kind of circle back to our question, we have a series of certificate stats that we can show and say, this is what we are producing certificates. But what I need to know is, how does that impact people coming back to jail? And that's going to take, I still say that takes a little bit of time, because we need to know, we've done probably, I'm going to make this number up, but just let's call it 1,000 job certificates. The question is, which one of those job certificates, in coordination with, what is that, faith-based? Is that drug treatment? What is effective and what's not? So we keep numbers, to your point, Ms. Sparks, we keep numbers of what we're doing. What I want to know is, how effective is it over a period of time? And that's what we're trying to work on. That's really where FSU has given us direction. Because, for instance, let's just say we did welding for a while. And if welding isn't effective, I'd need to spend the money elsewhere. We need to do something else with it. Is it effective, or was it ineffective because they didn't get drug treatment, right? So a lot of different things at play.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have the number of all the certificates and those kind of things, but I need to know whether or not it's working, or what and what conjunction, and what's the definition of recidivism, right?
Right.
So if you look at the Department of Corrections, and somebody can correct me on this, but they call recidivism not coming back to jail in 12 months. I don't think that's a success. That's kind of my take. It takes longer than 12 months. You need to be looking at least 2 years.
It could take you 12 months to get sentenced.
Yeah, so you need at least 2 years past your date of release to say whether or not it's working. Yeah. So it's not something we go, oh, you released, you've been out 6 months, you haven't come back. We need at least 2 years of post. And I think we're even talking about trying to decide if 3 years is a better approach. But I'm going to leave that to the experts and let them decide. But we have those things.
Yeah, and just trying to track who got certificates and if they've come back.
Yes, well, we have to do that as part of our Triumph Gulf Coast grant that we received a couple of years ago, and so we track all those pretty in depth. But it's this issue of, when is it considered successful? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years?
Yeah.
I would think anything from 2 to 3 years we're going to consider a success and say that is your recidivism at X. But I think 12 months is too short.
Yeah. Yeah. And then paired with another, is it more effective?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of, you don't want to anecdotal. You need to know that for sure.
Yeah. And Brittany is such a great example of that, because she, she said in her speech, it started with RSAT here.
Yeah, it
started with the residential substance abuse treatment, and she, she made that choice and went to Path of Grace afterwards. So, all right. So next question is from James Watson. Why are you trying to take over the volunteer departments? You don't have enough staffing to staff your shifts at the fire department. Oh,
I think Mr. Watson, probably some level of confusion about that. There's two parts to this, and here's kind of the easy part. If we can help Liberty or Argyle be successful and meet these standards, that's what we want to do, right? And I've talked to board members of both agencies, and we've tried to talk to staff. But at the end of the day, we have obligations to the citizens we all serve, right? We're already providing medical treatment and things of that nature. But there are certain standards that have to be met, and so and I think this is kind of an unclear thing. We have to meet certain standards, but we want you to be successful, and I think there's a little bit of confusion that we didn't do the OPAGA report, which is the Office of Policy and Program Analysis that is done by the state of Florida. That's not done by the Walton County Sheriff's Office. So when those things happen, they have to be addressed. You don't get the option of saying, I'm going to ignore these things. So it's just, unfortunately, it's one of those things. Standards matter. But we want those folks to be sent, and we've actually had some really good conversations with both agencies, and I am optimistic that we're going to be able to help them to be successful as well. If that means providing either equipment or training, we want that. It's absolutely in everybody's better interest right now, but we have to meet standards, whether it's my agency, your agency, or any others. Can't let ego get in the way of saving people's lives.
Graham Fountain, good work, Sheriff. Keep on your coursework. Toma rushing. Can we get officers at the light at 331 and 20? People are constantly running the light when turning westbound from the southbound lane. It would be a big moneymaker if you gave out tickets there.
Yeah. So you want to go back to what we were just saying, Ms. Rush? Actually, I agree with you. It's a very busy intersection. And one of the other problems is that turn lane there. So the turn lane, particularly going north, that turn lane gets backed up so far. Now, I have been told, and I have not confirmed this, but anecdotally been told that DOT is going to expand that turn lane. It's going to be lengthened. I've been told that, so hopefully that's going to give us
on 331 or
on
on 20?
On 331. I don't know what they're going to do with 20. So
going west off of 331 onto 20.
Correct. And I really need to ask, I suspect Representative Abbott probably knows better than I do, that they are looking at multiple ways to try and increase that traffic flow. I've heard people suggest an overpass, there's a lot of flyover, if you will. That's going to take a little bit of time. But if you think about 20 for right now, at school time, for instance, we're talking about having 3 deputies down there on 20, close to 80, close to Hammock Bay. And then, you've got the traffic right there at 331 and 20, which is also pretty significant. So the short answer is I agree with you. I don't know that we can keep somebody there 24/7, but during the peak hours, we're trying to.
Okay. Elizabeth Sunshine, I'm so proud of you all. You guys make us safer here in Florida, and I'm grateful for your team.
Thank you.
Joe Burton, can your organization take over code enforcement if the BCC asks you?
So I'm always careful on answers because somebody will somewhere thinking we're out to try and take them over. But not them, Ms. Burton, but just really anyone. My theory about operations managed by the sheriff's office should always come down to a couple of basic questions. One, can we perform the service better? That's one. Does it provide a higher level of customer service? That's two. And does it fiscally make sense when measured against those first two? And if the answer to those is yes, we always try to look at it. I've always been a little reticent on code enforcement simply because, with deputies doing code enforcement specifically, because you have a badge and a gun, which changes relationships, right? Code enforcement itself, I think if we can help them, we want to support them everywhere they can. A little similar to what we were saying about the fire departments. We want code enforcement to be successful, but I am not familiar with anything about that being in discussion at all now. And I know the supervisors they've got in code enforcement right now, we have a good relationship with them, Mike Gainey and Tony Corman. So hopefully if you have any issues with that, if you certainly can send them to us, we'll forward it to Mr. Corman and Mr. Gainey and see about trying to get your solutions to your problem.
Okay. Dale Pugh said, keep up the great work, Sheriff. Laura Lee Sparks says, I'd like to know how many that have completed job training that have not been rearrested. We're talking about the jail program.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying too. But the question is that after a year, or is that 2 years or 3 years? I mean, I think 3 years is more than long enough. The question is whether or not 2 years is appropriate and long enough. That's going to be I just think a year is too short. Yeah. Because I could run up down claim, look at what a tremendous success, everything we're doing is successful. Nobody got arrested in 6 months. Well, I'm not sure that accomplishes what we want. What we want to do is be able to say, this is sticking, it matters. So yeah. We're trying to ascertain that data too. And again, which program works.
Alan Adams, is it illegal to ride ATVs on privately maintained roads that the public has complete access to?
If it's a private road, I'm going to double check that because I don't want to tell you wrong, Alan, and then tell you something that's not accurate. I'm going to have somebody double check it. If it's a private road, then the public access to. If it's a private road, probably not. Private roads, you probably can.
It says
because a golf cart is also
privately maintained.
Oh, that's not the same. Here's a quick, easy way.
If the sign's
at the signage.
Blue.
Yeah, look at the signage on no, because even a private road, if it meets DOT signing requirements, i.e. it's 15 miles per hour, 10 miles or DOT proof signs, then you shouldn't have something on the roadway. But what happens is, let's use Sandestin for just a second. Sandestin allows golf carts, right? But if you look at their speed limit signs and things like that, those are private roads. They can drive golf carts. That also can mean whether or not they want to allow golf carts or not, right? We don't have a say on that. So I guess the short version, and I will double check this, I'll have somebody email you back, but if it's a private road and it's privately maintained, yeah, I would think that it does not apply.
Okay.
The short answer is yes, you probably could. Now, I'm sure one of my traffic guys are going to be jumping up and down if I'm wrong and telling me pretty quick. Hopefully. Where is Sergeant Will Curtis when you need him answering this real quick?
Yeah. Laura Lee Sparks said, I thought that was what FSU was studying when they were brought in 2 to 3 years ago.
It is. And if you remember, that was post-COVID as well, too. And then one of the things we had to get those programs back up and running. Like we had a really hard time getting our GED program back up and running. So we're trying to get those.
Is that because of instructors?
Yeah, we're struggling a little bit. It's a little bit with instructors. You know, we have to work with the school district and those folks to make sure that we have the appropriate criteria and credentials for all that. We also changed programs a little bit too. We've tried a couple of different things. We're not doing welding right now. We were doing welding. Well, you say, well, why would you stop welding? We were just not moving people through enough and getting a return on investment. So with commercial driving, for instance, it took us a little while to get up and running, making sure. But things like heavy vehicle operator, you know, those are working pretty good. The things, substance abuse, that's really good. But I need to know which ones are actually working. So it takes a little bit of time. So.
Healing Tools for Warriors. Thank you for all your amazing officers. We appreciate
Very
each
cool.
and every one of you. We hope you can make it this Saturday for our fundraising event for Tristan Jones. I might even be able to get you in the ring. Tristan Jones is our victim from our shooting in Mossy Head.
Correct.
They're having a fundraising event for him this Saturday. So that's great. We saw Tristan at our Splash Bash.
Right.
He came out to Splash Bash and was there with his mom. And we'd love to come out. I think actually Walton County Emergency Management and CERT volunteers are going to be there too. Christy Lynn Baker, thank you for all you do. Ryan Fredericks, did you know public subs went up $1 yesterday?
That's the kind of inflation I can't handle.
Speaking of fiscally making sense, woof. They went up $1? Is that for real?
That's a Florida crime right there, buddy.
Yeah, that's I'm not okay right now.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
really bad news.
That is
Listen,
a
a Boar's Head Turkey Pub sub,
That's where it's at.
sign me
That's
up.
where it's at.
AJ Smith, Sheriff Smith. Sheriff, you're doing a great job. Why would anyone think they could do a better job, provide better service, or be accountable to the people? Appreciate you, Sheriff. Thank you. Paul Decker, how about a class in ethics? I know this may sound silly.
It's not silly at all.
But I'm willing to bet approximately 90% of your repeat offenders are fatherless and being raised without a father. I can tell you that's where I was lacking. God bless you all. He's talking about a class in ethics at the jail.
That is a really good idea. I don't think that's silly at all. I think it's actually a really good idea. Yeah. If you want to email some thoughts about that to us, so Major Dustin Burleson at the jail or Miss Deanne Bertram, we can. That's not a silly thing. You know, the other thing we looked at a couple of years ago was basic financial literacy. Yeah. You know,
and sound training.
Yeah,
where they learn to enunciate certain words and they break down words. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate, but the reality is some of the inmates that are going into the jail don't know how to read or write.
Right. And to go back to the thing we were talking about with Sparks about, that affects the efficacy of programs, right? If you can't read, if we can't get you to a certain level of reading, it may not do you any good for certain types of job skills. We just need to make sure it's the right people at the right place, the right time.
Yeah. So. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all.
We did before COVID. We did a couple of classes with teenagers where we taught them how to change their oil and all of those things. Those were really fun classes too. Yeah. I guess it's like, post-COVID era things, we need to start getting back to.
For sure.
Laura Lee Sparks, so how long do we take to decide what the time frame is? This literally has been asked since 2018. It's 2024. 2 to 3 years ago, FSU was brought in to do numbers, and they still don't have clarity on what numbers. We're still deciding.
So kind of a couple of things. Yeah, they, listen, I'm not a statistical analysis, right? That's not what I do every day. But I trust in the way they're going about the process so that it is effective and it makes sense. And remember, don't let perfect be the enemy of better. I could keep doing it and never measure it and claim success, right? But that's not appropriate. What I want to do is to find what is actually working to the best of our ability and make decisions. If you think about it, you're in 2024, and they were brought in 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. You were in COVID through 2020. We had certain rules about who could get in the jail. And then from there, they have to ascertain. We have to start the programs back up, remember, because we lost all our instructors because they couldn't come in the jail. So that gets you through 21, 22. So that's really kind of the reason for the delay. So it's not, listen, I'd love to make it move faster too, but I'm not going to knock these folks when they're trying the best to do something that matters. And quite frankly, nobody else is actually doing this. Nobody's doing this. You know, FSU said we're one of the few places in the United States of America that are trying this. So I'm not going to knock them and say, hey, it's not perfect. You should have done X, Y, or Z right now. I get frustrated with it too. It can be extremely frustrating, but it has to be done correctly for it to be valuable and for it to be validated. So we're just going to have to do it right. And if it gets frustrating, then it's just going to be frustrating for a little bit. But we did have a good meeting with them, and I feel that that's moving in a positive direction.
Okay. All right. Sorry, let me figure out where we were.
Okay.
Alan Adams posted the code for ATVs that says the county is exempt from the provisions which allows ATV to be operated during the daytime on unpaved roads where the posted speed limit is less than 35 miles an hour by a licensed driver.
Right. That's county roads too, though. Right.
Yeah.
But on a private road, that doesn't even apply. I think on a private road, you can drive itself. But let me get a double check for you, Alan, and we'll be for sure about that.
Okay. Dan Curry, how many work crews on average do you have when it comes to helping the county and municipalities? What's the number of inmates in each crew? Can you explain the process?
So I'm going to explain the process before I tell you the number because I don't know off the top of my head. I looked at this probably a year or so ago, but again, a lot of it is a function of what their background is. So some of the things have changed over the years about who you can not let out of jail, but who you can put on these work crews. So in the past, we were putting 4+ crews out, and also helping at the landfill. Thank you. But there is an ebb and flow to that, if I'm being honest, because a lot of it has to do with what their background is. You know, what's called the objective classification system. Mm-hmm. And so there are things that we used to routinely allow people to work on work crews with that we can't do anymore. So even larger jails are struggling to put people out with the same numbers we used to. I'm not putting people out in chains on a county jail. I mean, we're just not going to do that. It doesn't make sense. It's not effective, and for jail sentences, that's not appropriate, right? So it just depends on any given day. We may have 3. It is entirely based on what the number of inmates are. And then the other thing is, too, I don't want to stop someone. Go back to Ms. Sparks' point. If you're eligible to go to programs and I can get you a GED, and if the difference is having you mow grass or get a GED, I'm going to go for the GED first, right? Because I think that has the best long-term effect. Mm-hmm. That's a long way of saying it just depends on how many inmates are eligible. We put as many crews out as we can on any given time. So it may be 2. It's been as high as 5. So, but we may be at around 3 to 4 right now. I just have to check.
Yeah, and they do landscaping. They help cemeteries, keep certain cemeteries in the county.
Absolutely.
Freeport, we have a contract.
Remember, somebody was threatening to sue me because we were doing the cemeteries not long ago. I was like, it seems like a reasonable thing to do. Those people pay their taxes too. Yeah, well,
and not to mention some of the cemeteries are historic. They're historic cemeteries, and they need to be maintained, and they're not privately owned.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
That's something that they do, and then Freeport has a contract, that we send.
But even there, we struggle. There has to be the appropriate inmates. You just can't put people on.
And it's a similar challenge that we face with. We're really trying really hard to start another female heavy equipment class.
But they have to meet.
The ratio of female to male inmates, first of all, is radically different. Mm-hmm. And then those females that are there have to, number one, they have to want to. Mm-hmm. And number 2, they have to qualify. So I think it's just challenging right now as a whole. But I hope that helps answer your question, Dan.
Well, I can tell you this. If we get enough to put out 5 crews tomorrow, we'll have 5 crews out tomorrow. And that's typically the top end. 5 is typically the top. Yeah. We just can't manage any more than 5 at any one time. And also be able to help the landfill too. So there's trustee status is a little bit different. Yeah.
Laura Lee Sparks, how do we know it's really good if we have no numbers and statistics?
That's actually that's the point I'm making. We need to know, And to do that, we've got to get a validated number instead of, you just don't want me putting together numbers and go, hey, this is great and wonderful. It needs to be validated. It needs to be done correctly. And so I get the frustration, but, don't let perfect be them better. We're doing things nobody else in the country is trying at the level we're trying. So I'm just not going to knock those folks, and I'm not going to push them to give false data. I want them to do really accurate numbers. And by the way, you don't have to take my word for it. You can call Florida State School of Criminology. You can ask to speak to Dr. George Pesta or one of those folks, the program administrator, and ask them, is anybody else in the country doing what Walton County is doing? And they'll tell you, they're not. They're not. Okay. That's not I love Mike. That is just simply, we just want to make sure this thing is done right. We're trying to make a difference. And so, I'd rather it be right than be rushed.
Sarah Ann, why couldn't I get a direct message from you, Sheriff Adkinson, after my son died of an overdose after several attempts of contacting you? I believe Lieutenant Ben Dowdy reached out to Sarah a few times. Her son overdosed, and she reached out to Allie, and Allie connected her with Ben Dowdy. It occurred in his district.
Okay. Call me.
Ben had reached out to her a couple of times.
Just send an email back privately with what your number is, and I'll give you a call.
A YouTube account, Redneck Philosopher. Can you drive and motorize bicycles in the state of Florida if you have a suspended license? I heard it was the same as a moped.
It is. So just want to make sure, if it gets past a brake, if you can pedal it, get past certain what's called brake horsepower, right? You can't, then it's the same thing as driving a vehicle, right? You can't do that if you have a suspended license. If it's a pedal assist, you can do that because that's not a vehicle under that terminology. In other words, it's a bicycle, not a, am I saying that right, Tony? I'm going to double check that. Am I a little off on that?
It's the definition of a bicycle if it can be pedaled.
Yeah, if it can be pedaled, it's a bicycle, right? But if you don't ever have to pedal it, then it's a vehicle. So
they get clever though nowadays. They put pedals on them that are not functional.
Yeah, right.
And then they try to say this is a bicycle, but it doesn't pedal.
Yeah,
so
right.
They're getting creative, if you will.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Larry Wayne, why were your deputies at Mossy Head saying that I was in a bar with a candidate instead of being at the forum? I'm not sure.
Have no idea what he's talking about.
I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Apologize. Don't know what you're talking about.
Shannon Truitt wants me to, she's on YouTube, she wants me to mention the Cell Phone for Warriors box that we have in the lobby. So we partnered with a nonprofit, and we keep a box in the lobby. If somebody has an old phone that they're not using anymore, they don't want to throw it away, Cell Phone for Warriors takes those phones and they refurbish them, and they give them to veterans in the community. Cool. Shannon, thank you. There's one in the north end at our North Administration office off on Sheriff Circle. Ryan Fredericks, what's your favorite Olympic event been so far? You can't say gymnastics, and if you don't say beach volleyball, I'm going to be offended. So
I like watching those track and field folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that did the shot put, he won for the third year in a row. It's the first time it's ever happened for the U.S.
There's a guy going in the Greco-Roman wrestling that is going to be, he's going for his 5th Olympics. And if he wins, he'll be a 5-time gold medalist, which is incredible.
Yeah, that's
Lopez
really
Cuba.
incredible. Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Okay, Michelle Phillips. I'm sorry, I'm trying to track questions. Tammy Abel Scott. Please don't ever get rid of the person who writes your Facebook posts. They're so entertaining and informative at the same time. Great job. Charlie Comer. Would you be able to explain the benefits of starting as a detention deputy for like 2 years before being a law enforcement officer on the street?
So I think it's a great, Charlie.
Nailed it, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great idea because I think you learn to talk to people and you learn to how to handle yourself and listen. That's a unique skill too, being a correctional officer, a detention deputy in and of itself. So that's a whole career in and of itself, right? But I think for a deputy on the road as well, I think you're just better for learning how to talk to people, and you have to learn to communicate, and you get a level of experience. I just don't think you can get any other way. I think it's fabulous. There was a time that was the only way that many organizations would hire you. You had to work in detention first. Job market being what it is, that's not the case anymore. But I tell you, I think that everybody, I can tell you over the years, numerous people that started that maybe struggled a little bit to start with, and we put them in the jail for a little bit, gave them an opportunity to learn. And they said, hey, man, that helps prepare me for the other road. But we've had a large number of them said, you know what, I like working in the jail. So I think it's a good move anywhere around. I highly recommend it.
Okay. A couple of questions. Sarah Ann is saying that she reached out to you directly. She reached out. Yes, Sarah, and we're not disputing that. Allie Lytle took your information. She just wanted it addressed at a district level first, so that she could address some of the questions that you had. If you want to email us, Sheriff Adkinson has said that he will reach out to you. Jeremiah Edler, does the fire department assist with smoke detectors for citizens of Walton County? Was it for a specific area or time of year the department was involved with providing the community with detecters?
Yes,
that's actually going on right now.
Right now. Jeremy,
Chief Radney.
Yeah.
And it's for our area of service, which is north of the Choctawhatchee Bay.
Absolutely. And
he does that. He does that all the time. You can go on our website. It's called Sound the Alarm, Jeremiah, and there's a form on our website, and you can fill it out, and Jeremy will come out and he will install one for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very similar to our Sign Up, Stand Out program, where we go out and we put up signs with address numerics on it.
Right.
Very similar form. It's quick and easy to fill out. I can come back later on in this post once we're off air, and I'll put the link below. Okay. David Talley said, judo is greater than track and field.
Truth. I didn't say that, but truth.
Jennifer Jones Davis, his favorite Olympic sport isn't breakdancing. No.
Is that an Olympic sport? This year's a trial.
Sport?
I think this year it's a trial. I think I heard that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
I actually think that's like happening.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Charlie Comer said thank you for the talking about the detention deputy going into that first. Peter Dragon, do you denounce Trey Nick's racist text messages?
I denounce any racist messages, period, full stop, end of story.
Redneck Philosopher on YouTube, can you ride a motorized bicycle in Florida with a suspended driver's license?
No. I mean, if it's again, I don't want to equivocate. If it's fundamentally a bicycle, the answer is yes. If it's fundamentally a motorized vehicle, the answer is no. So if that hopefully kind of explains that.
Yeah. Tammy Henderson, starting as a detention deputy allows you to build a relationship with the public too, which helps you on the road. It worked to my advantage and allowed the public to see a known face when I arrived on scene.
Yeah, Tammy just retired for us and did a great job for almost 20 years, and just hope you're doing well, Tammy, and enjoying your retirement. Good for you. Good for you, kiddo. That's good stuff. I'm glad to see her doing well.
Brute Campbell Work. There seems to be an increased presence of deputies on Highway 90 to 285, which is much appreciated. Does the county have the ability to increase presence on the Walton County side of 285? Proud to have you as my sheriff.
Thank you, Brute. So the on the 285 level side, yes, it's the short version of it. Now, once you cross over, obviously, into Okaloosa County, it's a little bit different animal. We're trying to work and slow down that area over there as best we can. We have a little bit of a substation out there. It's really more, it's not manned all the time, quite frankly.
And Mossy Head.
And Mossy Head, yeah. But, the idea is to try and slow it down because people get so frustrated on 90 and 285 because it's a two-lane road.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult to, I won't say run people down, but run people down from a deputy standpoint. So we like to be in that area where we can.
Yeah.
And I just, secondarily, as school starts back, you're about to see even more out there.
Yeah.
So.
And our community service officers help direct traffic at certain schools too. Huge asset to our agency.
By the way, the community service officers and the posse, I think is going to play a vital role in this, particularly in the Freeport, with dealing with this traffic situation over there.
Yeah.
Tony was going to jump in.
I thought maybe a good solution to some of this traffic there would be using the traffic signal, to go down towards the sports park and the school, instead of trying to turn in front of City Hall, because then you're trying to make a left turn across all that traffic. And it's never gonna work.
So, that may be that they're going to have to look at that pattern and see which way works. And that was kind of what somebody was saying earlier. Do you know what? Yeah, we have a plan now, but it may work better to do something like that.
Yeah. Peter Dragon, is Chaz Galloway still facing charges?
Never comment about ongoing investigations about who or may not be the subject of an investigation.
Peter Dragon, why don't you have a developmental environmental crimes investigator? Do you think that there are none?
No, I think it's actually really useful. So the way I kind of look at that is with Department of Environmental Protection. So we have a pretty close work relationship. And the way, I think the analogy for that is that you have a general practitioner, right, which is us. And so for certain things that are obvious environmental crime, illegal dumping, things of that nature, we can immediately make those charges. But if it gets to be a more complex environmental crime, you really should turn it over to them. By the way, we do the same thing with arson investigation. So if an arson gets to that, we call the State Fire Marshal's office, right?
And Department of Ag.
Well, Department of Ag for certain ag crimes. Think about the Highway Patrol for just a second. If there is a serious traffic crash, we call the experts in that, which is the Florida Highway Patrol. So that's the way the state of Florida is kind of set up and designed. It's not that we can't do it. It's just that they're specifically trained to do that. Yeah. So, but for basic thing, like if we catch some, and occasionally we charge, maybe a contractor or somebody for illegal dumping. And so we have done those. We charge people for, discharging in the bay a few years ago with a development or so they were like dredging out something over there, right? So we went to do the initial charge. Then we called DEP and they had them come in and handle it. So, yeah.
Okay. James Watson, Walton County Sheriff's Office is giving away a fire engine to another county rather than utilizing it to benefit our community. This decision raises questions about the prioritization of the community's needs and the responsible use of resources. Our community has invested in this fire engine, and it only right that we reap the benefits. I urge the Sheriff's Office to reconsider this decision and explore ways to utilize the fire engine to enhance our local emergency services.
So kind of a couple things about that. The way we make those decisions is whether or not the cost-benefit analysis to keep them working in Walton County makes any sense. Let me give you an example. So on occasion, we'll give away, for instance, a car that may have 160,000 miles on it. Well, for us, we make the analysis that by the time we spend $7,000, $8,000, maybe $15,000, or time they're broke down, it doesn't make fiscal sense for us to do that, right? Mm-hmm. For some agencies where they don't even have an opportunity at all, even if that fire engine breaks down, it's better than having nothing, right? So if it works for 3 months for them, it's better than them having nothing. So that's kind of the way we make those decisions as to determine whether or not, if there's still a life expectancy or a lifespan for us and it makes sense, we're not going to unload it. But at some point, the cost of operating those things just simply doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
And what happens with fire engines in particular is the vibration. It's not even the mileage a lot of times, it's the vibrations of it. You have some internal working equipment that just simply does not last and hold up. So, but if I keep that equipment and I go out and and our fire rescue folks, and it doesn't work, you're going to say, Sheriff, you have this broken piece of machinery. Why don't you have the correct piece of machinery, right? The correct apparatus. But for places that have nothing, or it's worth, I don't want to say risk, but it's worth a risk. So that's kind of the reason why.
And I believe that fire truck was requested by a mutual aid partner. So
it was, and a lot of that
they're still like providing an asset, and like as a mutual aid partner, sure, we are commonly on scenes together.
Right. But we can't count on that thing working all the time.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if I'm being blunt, they can't either.
Yeah.
It just may not work.
Yeah.
There's fire trucks from 1930 that drive. That doesn't mean you want to rely on them every day to do the job. So,
Ryan Fredericks, sorry, I'm trying to scroll back up. My feed is playing games with me. Ryan Fredericks, do you think the bear that walked out of the woods to protest another McDonald's being built? That's a funny. Potentially. You're telling me about the public subs, and now you want me to answer for the bear.
We should have sent Tally out there to handle that one. He has extensive history in dealing with bears, as long as they're not eating the square pizza.
Oh man. Yeah. Peter Dragon, direct piping against the law 380 is occurring by county employees into the bay right now. Going back to the environmental investigator question.
So, let me direct piping in the county's direct piping into the bay. Send it, email it, send what that is, and we'll absolutely take a look at it. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. And then
I don't think I don't think I had a report of that in any. Oh, I can tell you, I hadn't had a report of that to my knowledge.
Peter Dragon, why didn't your investigators respond to the complaints about weapons being brought into the BCC meetings by non-sworn officers?
I want to think it pretty extensively. This was discussed with the state's attorney's office, us, and City of Funiac Springs. Gosh, probably 6 months, a year ago, some version of that. Yeah. So they can't bring it. Just the short version is only the sheriff and/or his designee, and only I get to make that decision. Otherwise, or a judge, depending if it's in a courtroom. And so, in conference with the state's attorney's office, we felt no charges were appropriate.
Okay. We're caught up on questions thus far.
Okay.
Going back to the things that we wanted to talk about that are coming up, we talked about school.
Right.
We talked about our heavy equipment class last week. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that
Our CPM graduates.
our CPM graduates.
Yeah.
But speaking about the start of school, we trained with the FBI last week.
Yeah, had a good one.
And Tony, I want you to talk about that for a little bit. But before anybody says anything else, I want to give a shout out to Jesse at Hungry Howie's because he fed all the hungry people during that training. So we appreciate you, Jesse. Thank you very much. Hungry Howie's has always been very good to us there in Freeport. But Tony, tell us a little bit about the training with the FBI. They were at the Jacksonville office and the Panama City office.
Right. So they were happy to be here and to make connections with other law enforcement partners, and we were happy to have them here to give us some training. When I say we, I'm talking about the school resource officers.
Sure.
We were all there at Walton High School, and the bomb squad came in, gave us.
Were the Guardians there as well too?
Guardians
the
were there
Guardians.
as well.
So this Guardians for the school district. For you guys that aren't aware, there's also Guardians that work. Charlie Morris and those folks at school security were. So they were all there as well too.
They were all there.
Yeah.
So the bomb squad gave us a great class on recognizing IEDs, basically
Improvised explosive
devices, and the mechanisms that trigger them, and how we could look for them and spot them and avoid them, or ways we can mark them so when the professionals come from the bomb squad, they can do their job more effectively. And it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. They added on to the training that we did at the Stronghold, clearing rooms and going to a threat, responding to stimulus. We're talking about a single person responder to a shooter in a school.
Sure.
So then they threw in pressure pads and tripwires and things of that nature.
Sure.
So it was great training. We had a medic from the FBI that also taught us all about combat medicine. Some people had some of that training before, some hadn't, but it was still great refresher training for those that did. And who else was in there from? Well, the deputies that were in there commented that it's the best training we've had, in conjunction with the other firearms training that we've had over the summer from our own people internally.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been a great training summer. We learned a lot, and it's going to make our
so
schools a lot safer.
You also mentioned Stronghold. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention those folks do a great job, and what a tremendous asset to have in this county.
Yeah.
Brandon Graves, John Roby, those guys out there just do a phenomenal job, and they're great partners to local law enforcement, which is fantastic. We're appreciative and thankful to have them in this county. They're going to be statewide hosts. They got a pretty large grant from the state of Florida, and so and so that's a great opportunity for people to come across the state and see Walton County, but also just what a great facility they have out there. So kudos to those guys.
Yeah. And I was just, I think it was a really important thing to let parents know about right before we head back to school. Of course, that's something we never want to have happen here.
Sure.
But that can't keep us from preparing for it.
Absolutely.
So great training there. Captain Hogeben would like me to mention that the shelter is full right now.
Yeah,
dogs and cats.
We can't take any more at my house. So if you're interested in a dog or a cat, or occasionally we get a donkey or two as well too, right? So no, they do such a and again the staff out there, Patty and all those folks there just do such a good job. But I will tell you, the volunteers there are phenomenal as well too. They really add such an asset. We really couldn't do it without volunteers' help at the animal shelter as well too, which we love. And of course, Captain Hogeboom, does it as a passion project. So we're proud to have everybody out there. So go and start the new school year with a new kitten or a new puppy. We'd love to do that. So.
Or get one of the senior dogs. They make great.
Yeah,
they make great
When
companions,
I meant puppy, I just generically meant.
He calls everybody a puppy.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Sorry, I got to scroll back up here for a second. Peter Dragon said, I've sent the letters of non-compliance for direct piping to the sheriff from multiple state agencies.
I have not. So just to be clear, I have not received anything about that. So I need to double check where he's saying he sent it to me or he sent it to multiple state agencies. Just if you, I'll make this easy. Send it to PIO. What's the email again?
PIO@waltonso.org.
Yep. Send it to me, and I'll have somebody look at that tomorrow because we don't want anything piping into the bay.
Sorry, I'm trying to get down here. Rich Foster said, please advise of Sheriff Adkinson's email address. Rich, if you want to send it to PIO@waltonso.org, and I'll make sure it gets to Allie, his executive assistant, and we'll pass it along. And then Etta Elizabeth, my kids look so forward to seeing their SRO this coming year.
Awesome.
I'm really happy about that. Billy Altman says, keep up the good work. And Healing Tools for Warriors, going through CERT class, CERT, has helped everyone with hurricane preparedness. And with the world as it is, we all need to be ready.
Absolutely.
It helped them be more aware of their surroundings.
Again, it's another thing where volunteers take their time, put it in, and make a difference in this community. We talk about not our CERT members, which I think this time of year we can really recognize that because it is important. But also, like I said, our posse folks. Those men and women are putting in thousands of hours. And what a unique set. We've got everybody for volunteer. What a unique set of people. We've got everything from retired psychologists to, first sergeants to retired colonels to retired homemakers. I mean, everybody at all levels, and it's a little bit the parable of the talents. We like that, and so if you have the time and the inclination, you're interested in volunteering. Whether that's at the shelter or with our posse, we'd love to have you come out here, and I think it's just a great community asset.
Spencer Vance says, appreciate you all. Christy Lynn Baker said Captain Hogaboom suckered her into 2 kittens.
That's how they get you.
That's how you know she's good at her job.
That's how they get you.
She's getting people to come pick up some kittens. Well, Sheriff, we're caught up. It's
perfect.
It's 6:37. We've been on about an hour.
I think we tried to answer everything that's popped up.
The only other thing we have not talked about, which was of note, is we had a Choctaw beach man sentenced on federal charges to 10 years.
For methamphetamine and possession of weapons that, correct?
And that was
a federal sentence.
It was a federal sentence and took more than 2 years. So from start to finish, when you talk about investigations, that's not saying that it wasn't a good case or expedited.
It takes time.
It just takes
It can be frustrating.
Yes.
I find that's a lot like bond. People get so frustrated with bonds and things of those nature, but it's important. Yeah. Take time to do it right.
Yeah. But he was sentenced to 10 years, and we've had a lot of good cases lately, and some that are on the horizon that I think we'll be putting out soon.
Good. Very good.
As far as drugs go, but was there anything else that?
I don't think we had any. I didn't, Tony, anything that we should have mentioned that we didn't from your world?
Darreen has a really good question. What is Sheriff Adkinson's expectations of new hires? We have a whole list of them.
So we actually have a list. We wrote a list of them. They're on our. They're actually on our website, are they not?
They are.
Yeah, you can pull them up, and some of them are. Some people quit before when they see the expectations, they don't apply, and that's okay. We would prefer that, quite frankly. But here's the easy in a nutshell. Treat people like you want to be treated. Communicate with people. Understand that this is a customer service, a service job. And be prepared to put others before self. And if you can do those things with a little bit of compassion and some integrity, then you know what? You're probably going to be a good deputy sheriff. And I always say the people that I have found that made the best deputy sheriffs over the years are people that have worked in service industries. If you have worked as a a waiter, if you've worked as a sales clerk, if you've dealt with the public, right? Probably that. If you know the value of a dollar, if you've been a roofer, you know, if you've worked construction, you know what it means to work. You've been a farmer, you know, it's just been my experience that those people make good deputy sheriffs for a lot of different reasons. But you can't do this job without a little bit of common sense, a little bit of sense
Carla
of fairness.
Brock just said it, service over self.
Service over self. Yes, ma'am. Always. You hear me say it again and again and again. And so, that's a young lady that knows. Carla's been at this a number of years, right? And so, and I don't care if you're in a deputy or a detention deputy, or you're a firefighter, or if you're one of our airmedics, or if you're an amateur. Those are the fundamental, I think, assets of public service. So,
yeah. Great question.
Yeah,
Dave.
really good question.
And you can find the expectations on waltonso.org under careers, and there's a list of them.
Yeah, and some of them, like I said, I can be a tough person to work for. I get it. I've never said anything different about it. So, high expectations.
Great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So when are we back, Sheriff?
We should be back in about 2 weeks. So we try to do this twice a month. Sometimes we get off a couple of weeks, or get behind depending on what's going on. But we should be back around the 20th, 22nd, something like that. I think that's right. Ballpark. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys. As always, for those of you that had follow-up, send it in, email it. We'll take a look and see if we get you an answer. And we appreciate the opportunity to serve. Have a great evening.